Hello, it's Rob at Small Urban Garden UK. It's March, it's time to get planting some seeds. So I'm going to make my first lot of seeds today. And I've got quite a few different ones. And the ones I'm going to do today, I've got some Cosmos Picotee. I've got some Morning Glory. I've got some Shard, Northern Lights, Bright Lights, not Northern Lights. I've got some Sunflower. I've got some Castor, which I do like that plant. I've got some Cornflower. And I've got some Californian Poppy. And last year, I grew in seed trays and I scattered them in a line and I let them grow and it worked okay. The thing was, it led to a lot of pricking out and potting on, and this year I'm going to try a little experiment and do it a little bit differently and see if I can make life a little bit easier. So what I'm going to try and do is pot 1 or 2 seeds of each plant into one of these pots and then let them grow. If more than one grows, I'll prick one out and then I'll try and let the plant grow right through to its potting out maturity, so when we put it outside in this pot. I'm going to start them in the cold frame rather than out inside. When I did them inside last year, there wasn't much light upstairs, we haven't got very much space, so I did them on the floor and they got really leggy, and actually the seeds that I started earlier didn't start very well at all. So I'll put them in a cold frame. If it's still a bit cold for them, there'll be no frost, so there'll be no damage to the plants, they just won't immediately grow. So they will, once it warms up, hopefully grow. I'll have, I think, 5 of each plant today to start me off, and then once they've sprouted through and established, I can move them out of the cold frame, put them into a sunny spot in the garden, protect them if necessary, mainly from the blackbirds that seem to like taking the soil for the nest material and devastated half my seed crop last year. But I think that's the approach I'm going to take. Might work, might not, but let's see. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is fill all these pots up with soil. All I'm doing is just filling each pot near to the top with seed soil. I'm sure multi-purpose would do the job fine. And I'm grouping them into 5. I'm going to need 35 pots in total to plant all the seeds that I'm going to do today. And the plan for the garden this year, really, is to get as much variety and colour into the borders as possible. And last year, I did quite a lot of Cosmos and Rudbeckia, and they were really successful. And then the Cornflower and some of the Californian Poppies that I did, they didn't do so well. So I ended up with sort of a monoculture of Cosmos and Rudbeckia, and it looked nice. But this year, I want to try and go for as much variety. So what I'm doing is I'm holding back on growing too many of each seed early on, because I certainly don't like to get rid of the plants, and I could give them away, but I don't know so many people that necessarily want them. So I'm just going to do 5 of each, and of course I can always do more over the coming weeks depending on the success and the germination, and as I develop my plans for the garden as well. And I've got a lot of tubers and things like dahlias to grow, and gladioli and freesia, and we've got begonias. So it will be nice to have some of the annuals as well, but there's no point going over the top too early on and ending up with a lot of one thing if you are going for variety. I've got plenty of these pots from when I was potting on last year, so that's why I'm using these. Of course, you can use whatever you've got available. It's cost effective. Cheese pots, yogurt pots, toilet rolls, anything like that. You can plant in seed trays, but I'm just trying this. If it works well, then in each pot I'll have a really nice plant that I can put out quite early into the soil, and it should settle and take hold quite well. We're about halfway through now. Okay, so I've put the soil into each of the pots that I need, and also what I've done is I've written a little label for one of each of the 5. it saves on labels, and what I'll do is I'll keep them in groups in an order in the cold frame, and I shouldn't get too confused. I've reused the labels from last year, scribbled out where necessary, and put the new ones on. I've realised that I'm not going to be growing 5 casters. I don't think I've got that many seeds, so anything that I've got left over, I think I'll do a couple extra cornflower or cosmos. But I think we will start with the sunflowers, and I just carefully undo each packet. I used them last year, so I got a bit of sellotape on the bottom. Some come in foil packets inside, and some just come loose, like the sunflower. And you need to be careful that you don't drop them all over the floor. So it's a matter of just following the instructions. The depth it's saying is about 1.5 centimetres for the sunflower. Usually the bigger the seed, the deeper it needs to go. And also, if you think about how naturally it'd be spread in the wild, whether it would fall into the wind and be dragged a long way and then rest on the surface, or whether it might fall below the plant, or maybe eaten and be in some kind of dung, then that gives you a guide as to what's the likely approach is to be. It says about 1.5 centimetres down, so I'm just going to push it gently down, put the surrounding soil over the top for each seed, and then of course you'll need to water them. And the problem with some of the much smaller seeds is if you try and water from the top, you can just splash the seed off the side of the pot or the container that you're growing it in, and you don't want that. So what I've got here is I've got a bucket shallowly filled with water, and I'll put each group of seed pots into the water and let it soak up from the bottom, which I think is a much better way. I mean, for the casters and the sunflowers, which are big seeds, or something like runner beans, you could water from the top. It would save maybe a bit of time, but I've got a few chores to be doing in the garden today, so I'll put each group of 5 into the water, let it soak through, put it into the cold frame, and that'll be the best way to go. Also, with the smaller seeds, it might be difficult to just take one and get it into each of these individual pots, which is probably the difficulty with the method that I'm trying to use this year. But I will try my best just to take one seed. If I end up getting 2 or 3 and they all germinate, then I will just take out the others and allow the one plant to grow through. So I've just got one more seed here of the sunflowers. Just look for a good one. There we go. I'll put it in, 1.5 centimetres deep, according to the instructions. It's always better, I think, to go a bit more shallow than too deep if in doubt. And then seal it back up, and then these are ready to go. Just dropped into my shallow water like that. You can probably get about 10 pots in here, and that will be in there for a good few minutes until it's moist on the top, and then we'll put it into the cold frame. So I'm moving on to the casters now, and I've just had a quick look, and I have got 4, and I bought these seeds last year, and so I think it's best if we just plant all 4. I'd probably like 2 out the back and maybe 2 on the front. These are beautiful seeds, I think. Really nice patterns on, quite big. Now, of course, source of ricin is casters, I believe. So they're very poisonous if ingested, but it's a wise idea to probably wash your hands quite well afterwards. The depth that we need to put these at is about 6 millimetres, so 0.5 centimetre, about 1/4 of an inch, I think. I'll just drop those down into there. Got 4. So that gave me 1 leftover pot, so I'm just going to do an extra cornflower. Okay, that's those done. Nice and simple. And not quite got space for those. I'll leave them to one side, ready to be watered. So the morning glories do come in a little foil packet. Never planted these before. And just tear the corner, have a look inside, see what the size of the seed is. They feel sort of like a medium-sized round seed. Quite an interesting black seed actually, in a sort of triangular shape almost. So I'll pop those back in. These say to be sowed in March. I know the seeds I'm doing today are for this kind of early sowing, so I've left my runner beans for a little bit later in the year. And the depth that these need to go at, it's not going to be too deep. Sow singly to 0.5 centimetre, so quite near the top really. So I think what I'll do is just lay it, each seed on the top. Like so. Any big lumps that have found their way in, I'll just try and break up or remove. And then I think for these, it'll just be a matter of just brushing the soil from around the sides. So it's got about 0.5 centimetre covering it over. So next it is Californian poppy, and these are obviously, like most people have seen poppy seeds. These is one of the smaller ones, so this is where my plan is going to get a little bit more difficult. So I've got a few seeds there. I'll just put that to one side, and this is 0.5 centimetre deep again. So, but they are I can handle them, so I'll put one in each. Remembering, if you can, which ones you've been in, work in a set direction that suits you. Okay, so there are a few left, and if possible, I'm going to try and get them back in the packet, which is not too bad. I just need to cover these over. I've got the cornflower. These are quite a pretty little seed. Remind me of a grass seed, and obviously I think these are the kind of seed that would be blown in the wind, you imagine, in a meadow or something like that. So these again are shallow, about 0.5 centimetre of soil, and they're not too difficult to handle. So I'll just pop them in. You can tell we live in an urban garden with the traffic as it passes. And these I will do probably a couple more sowings of, so we get a sort of successive set of flowers throughout the year. And I think mainly, I don't know, I might put them on the front. I've not decided yet. That's part of the fun, deciding where you're going to put everything that you've grown. We've got the shard next, the bright lights with other different colours. I don't think I got that many different colours last year. It's just a look of the draw. Last year I grew them in a little container that I've currently got my winter garlic in. So this year I'm going to pop them in the boards, I think, and use them as decorative, but also try and eat them as well. These go a little bit deeper, about 1 inch deep, which is about 2.5 centimetres. But first I'm just going to pop each of the seeds on the top, so I can remember which ones I've done. It's a nice big seed, a member of the beetroot family, and hopefully I'll get quite a good response from them this year. This was one of the seeds that I planted early last year and was a bit leggy, and I also found it quite difficult to pot on without too much, without causing a bit of trouble to the plant itself. So maybe this will do a little bit better in these individual pots this year, and I'll do another couple of sowings of those as well as we get on. But we'll start off with those. I'll just push them down a little bit and then cover them with the right amount of soil. So the last seed we're planting today is the Cosmos Picotee, which is the white cosmos with a beautiful pink edges to the flower, and the seeds look a little like caraway seeds or grass seeds, something like that. Got 3 there. I'm just going to pop them onto the top of the soil. And I found that these picotees, the foliage was a bit more delicate than the other cosmos, the mixed sort of general cosmos I grew, and they were a bit boisterous for our reasonably small borders. So this year I'm just going to grow the picotee, and I think they're really quite delicate and nice. They'll look good, and they flower very heavily all through the season, non-stop. So they're a great choice for the garden. So that's the last one done. I just need to cover them in a little bit of soil, and it's a matter of getting everything watered and popping them all in the cold frame. I've given my seeds a watering. All of them have had a good soaking from below. I will use this little sprayer to keep them wet from above, and also I've got some little trays that I got from a pound shop, nice and cheap. I think I'll get some more. That way I can keep water in the tray below, keep them nice and moist. I can water from above if I want to, put a bit of humidity into the cold frame. I've got my other plants that I'm protecting down here at the bottom. I've got space for a second layer of seeds if and when I need it. We'll see how these are getting on. My tomatoes are growing upstairs, already sprouted through. It's that time of the year where it gets really exciting in the garden, so hopefully we've got plenty to come over the next few weeks. Take care. See you later.